Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone, especially to my supervisor and my panel. My name is Mohd Syakir bin Sufi, and today I will present my final year project 1 entitled Development of Assistive Device for Hip Abductor Adductor Equipment for Neurological and Spinal Cord Injury People. This project is supervised by Puan Ruzy Haryati binti Hambali. This is the outline for my presentation, where I will start with introduction, problem statement, objective and scopes, literature review, methodology, and lastly, conclusion and expected outcome. As for the introduction, I will explain briefly about my project terms before I go further with my presentation. Here are the list of definitions for the spinal cord injury, neurological disease, and paraplegia according to Wikipedia. The damage to any part of the spinal cord or nerve at the end of the spinal canal is the definition for the spinal cord injury. For neurological disease, it is an injury to the brain, spine, or nerve. Neurological disease can often affect many areas of the body, including the organs, blood vessels, muscles, and bones. Lastly, paraplegia is a spinal cord injury that paralyzes the lower limbs and mainly affects the trunk, legs, and the pelvic region, resulting in loss of movement. Figure 1 here shows the level of spinal cord injury that divides into 4 categories. So basically, my project was carried out at Perkeso Rehabilitation Center, PRC Melaka. This project focused on paraplegic who suffer spinal cord injury at lumbar vertebrae that involve lumbar nerve of level L1 to L5. Injuries generally result in some loss of function in the hips and legs. To improve the quality of patient's life, also to be able to perform normal daily tasks, the development of an assistive device for hip adductor is a major help for the patient. These are the difference of abduction and adduction, where abduction is any motion of the limbs or other body parts that pull away from the midline of the body, while adduction is the movement of a body part toward the body's midline. As I mentioned in the previous slide, this project was carried out at Perkeso Rehabilitation Center, PRC Melaka. So during the site visit, I did an observation on how the patient used the existing adductor equipment to list out the difficulties or issues during the physiotherapy session and brainstorming the features to enhance the equipment. Here are some of the pictures of the patient during the physiotherapy session. Moving on to the problem statement, these are all the category of a spinal cord injury, which divided into 4 categories: cervical vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, lumbar vertebrae, and sacrum. And my project focus is in lumbar vertebrae category, which involve leg muscles that also divided into 4 levels. The lumbar spine is the third region of the vertebral column, located in the lower back between the thoracic and sacral vertebral segments. It is made up of 5 distinct vertebrae, which are the largest of the vertebral column. This supports the lumbar spine in its main function as a weight-bearing structure. These lumbar vertebrae or lumbar bones contain spinal cord tissues and nerves which control communication between the brain and the legs. Damage to the lumbar spinal cord subsequently affect the hips and groin area and may impact the lower abdominal muscles and thigh flexion as well. For disability, it will affect hip flexion and it affects patients emotionally and interferes with activities of daily living. For commitment, difficulty to perform daily activities and need assistance also require a certain amount of strength to do so. For hospitality, physiotherapists at rehabilitation center have limited manpower and require strength to assist the patients. And lastly, existing assistive device still require manpower to raise up the legs to move and pull up the legs to spread. Next is the objective and scopes for this project. For the first objective is to determine issues of neurological and spinal cord injury people, strengthen the target muscles, and stabilize the hip according to the human factors engineering and material selection. For the first scope, design hip abduction adduction assistive device for paraplegic with injury at L1 to L5. Second objective is to develop an assistive device that is suitable for the spinal cord injury of hip patients to all angles, which is in low cost and high profitability. The second scope, conduct case study on the use of artificial intelligence technology that influence automatic resources. The third objective, to analyze and validate the usability of the product development. The last scope is material selection on the assistive device that comply the characteristic of durability environmental friendly and low cost using CES EduPack software. Moving on to the literature review, according to Zonikaki and Kleftavat in 2002 on the subject paraplegia treatment, the description are, this research about the treatment aid for paraplegia as a majority of paraplegics, they will need to use a wheelchair to get around. For persons with a spinal cord injury, activities of daily living ADLS might be difficult at first. With the help of physiotherapists and occupational therapists, the assistive device allowing them to live freely in the community. According to Tulberg and Maguire Jr. in 2010, on the subject lumbar vertebrae segmental movements, the description are, according to the researcher, the range of segmental movement in a single segment is difficult to measure clinically. Furthermore, flexion and extension in the lumbar spine is the product of a combination of rotation and translation in the sagittal plane between each vertebrae. According to Ross Chaffers and John P. Gohan in 2013 on the subject relationship between neurological injury and patterns of upright mobility with spinal cord injury, the description are, this study introduced a classification system based on the ability of spinal cord injury to integrate upright mobility into the activities of daily living. Lower extremity strength was a strong predictor of independent mobility, primary ambulator, and unplanned ambulator. According to Natter and Frank in 2001 on the subject movement of hip muscles, the description are, this research explained about the movement that brings the thigh close to the abdomen is called flexion. Hip adduction occurs when the femur moves outward to the side, as in taking the thighs apart. Hip adduction occurs when the femur moves back to the midline. According to Hussain and Yassin in 2006 on the subject clinical uses of electromyography (EMG), the description are, many researchers had proved that the use of EMG tool, which is to view the muscle activities, as the needle EMG is used as a diagnostic tool for identifying neuromuscular diseases or as a research tool for studying kinesiology and disorder of motor control. According to Sims and Judith in 2008 on the subject manual muscle testing (MMT), the description are, this case study shows a manual muscle test in applied kinesiology that is conducted by having the patient use the target muscle or muscle group to resist while the practitioner applies a force. It may be suboptimal functioning of the tested target muscle that can be used as an indicator muscle for other physiological testing. Now, I will present the methodology part. The flow chart shows the flow of this project for FYP1 and FYP2. For FYP1, I visited the rehabilitation center where the project election happened. Then, I defined the problem statements, objective, and scopes. As for the collection data of the development of this assistive device, I carried out an interview and did a questionnaire with the patients to have more idea for the features, to have more understanding about my project and how to accomplish the objective. I did a lot of research on journals, websites, articles, example case studies, and theses. Here is the details of the relationship between objective and methodology. Regarding Objective 1, I've done the observation, brainstorming current data collection, and did a research on the literature review path and also case studies. To achieve the Objective 2, I use qualitative approach, which means data that have been collected were only through participants on observations and interviews. Other methods also will be used to determine the features of the assistive device, such as pure matrix design, quality functional deployment, and house of quality. And lastly, to achieve the Objective 3, manual muscle testing and Trendelenburg tests will be done to show the results of the methods that have been conducted. As for conclusion, the expected result of this project is, by improvising the physiotherapy tools that have been existed, we hope this product can ease the physiotherapist's work and can help the spinal cord injuries patients to move their leg easily with the help of our assistive device mechanism. Also, to improve the quality of patients' life, to be able to perform normal daily tasks, the development of an assistive device for hip adductor is a major help for the patients. Lastly, before I end my presentation, this is the upcoming future plan for my FYP2 next semester. Basically, FYP2's main focus is, if the project or the objective remain unchanged, I will focus on the development and validate of the assistive device. The validation will take part using EMG or electromyography to view the muscle activities. That's all for my presentation. I hope you guys enjoy and get the idea of the project. Thank you.